Assalamu alaikum and good morning, everyone. So this session is about customer experience in a digital era. Very relevant topic, possibly very prevalent topic. Gartner defines customer experience management as a practice of creating and designing customer interactions in a way that customer experience or customer expectations are either met or exceeded, so as to create greater advocacy and loyalty. And it is important to understand both the words, that is loyalty and advocacy. Loyalty, which means you want your customers to come back to you to buy more services and to buy more of the same services. And advocacy, you also want your customers to recommend you to other customers. So that's how Gartner defines customer experience. When you look at the way things have evolved or transformed over a period of time, there are changes in the physical world and in the digital world, right? And I picked few, and I'm sure each one of you, when you think about it, you will pick your own, and the list can go on and on. So as an example, if you go in a physical world, if you go to a customer service center, and it's badly designed, it's a turn-off. In a digital world, a bad user interface is a turn-off. In a physical world, a discourteous or an ill-informed customer service agent is bad news. In a digital world, an irrelevant or non-personalized content that comes in front of you doesn't make you happy. In a physical world, the choices are limited. In a digital world, the choices are limitless. In a physical world, if you wait 5 seconds for a service, it's more or less acceptable. In a digital world, 30 seconds is eternity. And these are fundamental difference. The question to ask is, are the principles of customer experience any different in the physical world as they are in the digital world? The question to ask also whether organizations, consumers or customers, and countries have to do anything different, and the impact the digital world has made to each one of them. So your own organization, the organization you work with, your customers, as well as the economy and the countries to serve. And we thought none better to ask these questions than the CEO of the organization, where fixed or word physical is ingrained in the DNA of the organization. So we have the CEO of Pakistan Telecommunication Company Limited, Mr. Daniel, and we would be exploring some of these questions. During the course of next 30 minutes, I would be coming to the audience. We'll take a couple of questions from the audience. So please keep your questions ready. No comments, so that we don't have too much time. So, and I want more and more to learn from Daniel and his experiences. So just ask your crisp question so that Daniel can respond. So Daniel, let me start by the first question. In your view, given your experience internationally as well as in Pakistan, how do you see the digital world is making an impact to the organization? So in your case, as an example, PTCL, but in generic term, to your consumers or customers, and also to the economy. How do you see this whole landscape changing?
Thank you, Veqar. How long do you have? Lots of questions. All right, so since this is about customer experience, let me start with customer. And when we think of customers in the digital age, what is different to the physical world? One, customers today are extremely well informed. They have lots of sources of information available. They can do lots of research online. They go to the social media. There are lots of recommendation engines. So customers today, your digital customers, that once they come through to your digital channels, are extremely well informed. They're also very easy and happy to switch. Loyalty is something which you have to re-earn every day. You should not take it as a given. Because as you mentioned, a badly designed user interface is a turn-off, and it's very easy to say, I'm done with this, let's go somewhere else. So that's one. Secondly, in this digital age, customers are expecting swift, easy to use, convenient service, highly personalized. Highly personalized. And that I think also has important implications. And lastly, and that is a major point I would like to make, in my view, there's no such thing as a digital customer experience because it's only about customer experience. There can be physical channels, there can be digital channels. And customers, and if you look at our own behavior, we switch from digital to physical all the time. You know, maybe we start online, we research something, we end up in the store, and we expect these guys to know what we've done online. I've just been on your website, how come you don't know, right? So I think it's all about omni-channel management, and therefore one of my key points is don't talk just about digital customer experience. It's about overall customer experience, which is the sum totality of all engagements that a customer has with your company, with your brand, over the span of his life cycle as a customer, hopefully a long one, sometimes a short one. So that's from a customer point of view. Now, what does it mean for companies like PTCL and others? And I think this is probably quite universal. So, you have to be ready for that. And that sounds like a very easy thing to say, but it's actually quite a difficult thing to do. Because if people have expectations that you know a lot of them, and you know a lot about them, and they can personalize your service, and you can be swift, and you can be easy to use, you gotta better be ready for that, right? So, there's no point of having a flashy, fancy customer interface, a nice platform that raises all sorts of expectations, and then you take 2 weeks to deliver something. Then the chain breaks, 30 seconds is an eternity, you said, when you go to the physical world, maybe the tolerance is a bit bigger, but still, it's all about the 360, it's end to end. So therefore, and eventually, unless your product is delivered entirely only digitally, which few products are, at some stage you touch the physical world, and you have to make sure that your fulfillment processes and all the other processes are in line with the expectations you have created at the customer interface, which may be digital. That also has very serious implications and profound implications for the way you work inside your company. So you cannot expect to be adaptive, flexible, personalized to your customers, and internally you still have your same old rigid bureaucracy and long-term processes that are driven by finance, HR, and internal audit. No, the organization has to be turned upside down in order to meet those expectations and to again have an end-to-end customer experience. And what it means for countries, that's a very big question. I think this was deliberated extensively in the previous session that I partially attended. But of course, it's a huge opportunity for the workforce, and as we previously mentioned, there's a hugely talented workforce in this country. But I completely agree with what my colleague Irfan said. You have to significantly up your game. It's not just about people being able to code. It's about the value add that you create, and that's really what will eventually lead to a prospering economy. So, trying to answer the live question in 2 minutes.
Yeah, thank you. Then you touched upon a very important point about whether organizations need to be run by the sales and the marketing and the front-end forces versus the HR and the finance. How important it is in creating a seamless customer interaction all across, especially when we are blending the physical and the virtual world or the digital world, to make sure that the front end and the back end KPIs are more or less synchronized, and the back end realizes that they are serving the front end so that they can serve their customers better. How important it has become in today's world compared to what it was, say, in yesteryears or in a typical physical world?
Well, look, I think it's very evident, it's essential, and it goes back to what I said before. Your customer doesn't care how you're organized internally and what your structure is and what your processes are, quite frankly, and he or she shouldn't. You're the customer, so you expect service and quickly and personalized and swiftly, and that's what your expectation is. So therefore, everybody in the organization, from the CEO to the people on the front line and everybody else in between, has to be aligned towards that goal. And I keep telling my colleagues, the only reason why you get up in the morning, go to work, and have a job and a salary at the end of the month is because there's a customer out there that wants our service and wants it repeatedly. If there's no customer, then there's no paycheck, there's no salary, there's no revenue, there's no company. It's as simple and trivial as this. So at the end of the day, this is where you have to orientate everyone, and everybody is somebody else's customer. It's not as simple as saying, okay, the sales guys and the marketing guys, they deal with the customers and everybody else has no customers. No, that's not true. Everybody has an internal customer, right? I'm actually also, as a CEO, I'm somebody's customer, but at the same time, I'm also serving someone. I'm actually serving lots of people, 20,000 within PTCL. And that's the way I look at it. So orient everybody towards that common goal. And you either swim or you sink together.
And purely from making this change happen, and I think I really admire your response, given that the principle of customer experience doesn't change. The execution strategy may, depending on what sort of organization you are, but the principle stays the same. You still need to serve the customer in a seamless way, in an efficient way, in an effective way, meeting and hopefully exceeding his expectations all the time, and also setting the expectations all the time. But purely thinking from a digital world perspective, what sort of changes, for example, you have made or you would like to make as you go along in your organization to match the speed and the options available to the customers in a digital world or in a blended world, if you like? If you can share some of the examples, that would be great, and also some of the things which may be in the pipeline.
Sure. So let me first start by saying in this meeting, and I do that at every conference that I speak, I'm not pretending that PTCL is perfect, nowhere near. But what I'm clearly telling everyone is we're getting better every day. I want to make sure that every evening when we go home, we're better than in the morning, right? So a lot of the things that I've told you about is based on my experience internationally, what I've seen elsewhere. I'm not pretending that PTCL is there yet, but I can guarantee you and I assure you PTCL is getting there, step by step, all right? So what are some of the changes we have made? And here I'll talk not just about the customer interface, but first and foremost, the basis of our business also in the digital age still is the network. And we have had historically a network that was not well kept and not well maintained and not well invested, and we're changing that, and we have changed it significantly. And change is coming hopefully also to your doorstep anytime soon. We're upgrading our top 100 exchanges to give better speeds. That's the physical part. In addition to that, we're also working very extensively on upgrading our touch points, our shops that looked like, I will not use the word, how they looked before, but now they actually look like shops. So at least some of them. So we're investing a lot in that. We're investing in training our people. We have done lots of things which you may consider quite basic compared to what I just told you, what good looks like in the digital world. So the point I'm making here is we're coming from far behind, but we're getting faster and faster, and we're catching up pretty quickly. And we're going to give a good run for the money to our competitors, that I can assure you, and that's what we're doing. Now, when we talk a bit more about the digital interface and what we have done, one thing you will not notice because it's invisible, but it's actually quite interesting, is we are using AI technology, believe it or not. PTCL is using AI technology by a company, by the way, of Pakistani origin. I will not mention the name because I don't want to make advertising here. But it's a company that has a wonderful AI capability that helps us to pair better incoming calls into our call center with the agents that are working in that call center. And I can guarantee you that when the system is on or off, you actually notice the difference, right? So next time you have a good experience when you call the call center, maybe it's because of the help of AI, right? So that's one. Secondly, our customers can reach us on the web, on Facebook and Twitter. We are very active on that front, and we also have introduced a customer service app where you can register complaints, where you can pay your bills. And I'm happy to report that about 30% of the transactions that could be done on the app are actually done on the app, right? We've come from way behind. 30% is nowhere near enough. I would like it to be more, but again, in the principle of continuous improvement, step by step, we're making that progress. So actually, and interesting, since you mentioned fixed being the embodiment of physical, I would have a slightly different perspective because we started out in 1947 as an analog company, and that was truly a physical. But today, our business is the internet, quite frankly, it's broadband, and that's digital. So we've also made the transition. Yeah.
Great, and delighted to hear about this AI usage to provide customer experience. One more point, and again, specifically to PTCL, but would be good to also get your perspective from a principal's perspective. The traditional HR, our workforce, has been very brick and mortar focused. So they love the big rooms, they love the big aisles, the big corridors, dedicated spaces. Digital world is different. So how are you ensuring that the human resource, 20,000 plus people in PTCL, and many of them, if not all of them, come from that legacy mindset of brick and mortar, move towards this digital era? And what's the role HR and your organization of HR is playing to transform this mindset? So would be good to get some perspective on PTCL, but also if you can share some of your learnings over the years.
Sure. So look, I mean, as I said, we have about 20,000 people, and many of them, as you say, come from a legacy background. I emphasize it's too easy to say legacy people are not able to make the transition, they're the problem. Actually, I think it's actually a huge asset that we have, because we have a physical presence in the country that is unmatched, and it's for all of us, for the management, for the CEO, for the management team to make the most of that. So I'm not hiding the fact there are some challenges, but eventually it's there, and it's good to have. Because even in this digital world, when something's broken, sometimes you need somebody actually go and physically fix it, and we have people everywhere across the country. And I view that as an asset. So the question is then, how do you bring these people into this digital age that you mentioned? Look, the reality is it's not for everybody. Let's be clear. If you're 58, 59, near to superannuation, and you've been living in the physical world for all your basically your business life, we're not going to force you to make that change. So there are some people where we are simply acknowledging the fact they will not go digital, and that's quite frankly okay, because we have still a lot of work to do in the physical world, right? And for the other ones, it's all about training. We have imparted huge numbers of training days to our employees, from very basic things, as I mentioned, fixing the basics, to making them progress and grow in this organization and eventually get digitally literate. That's one. Secondly, we are hiring a large number of what we call summiteers, young ladies and gentlemen that are graduates from university, and I'm very proud of them because, wow, they really bring change to the organization. And we have, in some places, we have big local exchanges with 50, 60, 70 people that are both my age, yours, or older, managed by 25-year-old ladies. Wow. Now, that's a culture shock for both sides, I can tell you, but a very healthy one. So it's on the one hand, moving the large number of people gradually, for those that are willing and able, forward through training, through incentives, through on-the-job, on-job rotation. On the other hand, instilling a new blood, a new culture, new ways of working through youngsters. And it's very interesting, when the 25-year-old university graduate sits next to the 58-year-old former civil servant, sometimes very interesting conversations actually start.
Yeah, and I can possibly understand some of it. Again, just hearing this is so fascinating for me that, how you are blending the millennials with the people who are traditional, if you like. Some of them are willing to change, others are too fixed in their mindset and think it is not their age or not in their DNA to change. But how organization through this blend is creating a transformation so that they can serve their customer better. I will come to the audience after this question. So if you have questions, please raise your hand. Usher are here. They'll come to you. We cannot take more than 2. And as said, please keep your question crisp. But before I do that, I'll ask a very pointed question, and that's to you as CEO of PTCL. From your timing viewpoint, 8 or 10 hours or 12 hours or 24 hours that you give to PTCL, how your time management has changed from focus on a very physical way of managing organization and customers to creating that blend? And how much time do you think you as CEO or your office is giving to this digital transformation in a 24-hour day?
Well, the easy answer is it has not changed. For the simple reason that, as I said in the beginning, for me, it's not about the digital versus the physical. It blends. It's about omni-channel management. You need to be able to handle a transaction that started online and fulfill it physically, or the other way around. And so, therefore, also in PTCL, we don't say there is not this digital nirvana that some chosen ones work on, and then it's the rest that are somehow in the trenches and therefore suffering. No, we have to bring everybody, or those who are willing and able to live in this new world, to this world. So therefore, we don't distinguish it. We don't say, now we work on operations and now we go into the digital nirvana. No, it's all one. And it's progressing step by step every day. Now, how I spend my time, it's more than 8 hours, that's for sure. But what I can say is that the management team and I spend a lot of time and energy and effort on customer feedback. We do a lot of, we have a lot of research done for us. We also have mystery shopping in our shops. We have lots of customer surveys. And we meet in a subset of the management team very frequently to see where we are. We have certain ambitions, as I said, we're not there yet, but we're working towards them. We take this very seriously. And I personally make it a point of reading complaints that come to me to the extent I can. And I want to make sure that I understand what's going on. That also means spending time in the field. So this afternoon and tomorrow, I will not be sitting in a conference room like this. I will actually be out in the field. I will planning to go along with one of our installers to see, when fault rectification or new installations, what's happening. So that's important to me. I need to be close to reality. If I sit in my office and look at my PowerPoint slide and my Excel, I have no clue what's going on in the organization. And this is a discipline and a way of working that we have instilled in the management team. And last but not least, customer satisfaction measured as Triumph score is actually a significant integral part of our all KPI sheets. So my bonus and the bonus of my management team in a not insignificant manner depends on what customers think about us.
Wow, and I think it's really about walking the talk, as they say, that if you talk about customer satisfaction or customer delight, put your money where your mouth is, then have incentives given on customer delight and not just on typical numbers, which are the profits and the top line growth and those kind of things. So that's so good to hear. And also I'm delighted to hear about this hands-on management concept where you roll up the sleeves and you are actually in the field rather than being in the room. Any questions from the audience? Okay, so the way I'll go is I've seen 2 hands and they are the 2 I pick. So I have some discretions and I'll use them. Yes. Please introduce yourself, question, and then we'll respond.
Hello, my name is Syed. I work for Syed. My question, I heard earlier that it's not man or machine, it's man and machine. My question is that what impact it is going to make on the work-life balance, because if I had a cell phone and I am 24 hours available for my work, when I was in FMCG sector, I used to receive a call even at night that this pack is not available, this product is not available in the shop, and I used to get it available at that time. So in fact, we are working 24 hours. If we haven't get a chance to read an email in the morning, we read it at night and reply if an important email. Similarly, if we go for a flexi hours, given work-life balance is going to hamper, then how the decision-making process will follow? Because all the stakeholders are not available because of flexi hours, then how would the decision-making process delay can be rectified?
So if I understood the question correctly, you're asking in a digital world, how does the decision-making process work so that customers are served faster?
And work-life balance.
Okay. Also, it's about, so 2 questions. One is work-life balance of employees because they are 24 hours available, and by the way, CEO included, right? And the second question is the having processes in a way that they can respond to customers in a faster way. So, yeah.
Good. So look, on the 24 hours, the organization, the company needs to be available 24 hours. Not every individual is available 24 hours. And I guarantee you, I'm not available 24 hours personally, no way. Because then I would no longer have a wife and a son. So, and that's important to me as well. Therefore, the organization as such needs to be geared to 24/7, of course, that's essential, right? So that's on the work-life balance. And I think it's for everybody for him or herself to say, when is enough enough? And the balances may be different depending on, who you talk to. Now, on the decision-making process and making sure that customers can be served quickly and swiftly as per their expectations. Look, the easy answer, conceptual answer is you need to empower the front line, right? That's the easy and conceptual answer. That's not so easy always because you have to find the right balance. If you give too much empowerment to the front line, that's well-intended but can have negative consequences because of abuse. So you have to define limits, but the philosophy is let's try and over time empower the front line more and let's go after the black sheep one by one that abuse the power given to them, rather than having everybody on a very short leash, feeling good about it in terms of controls, but actually not being able to serve the customers well. So that's the balance we have to find. We're not perfect there yet. I think we need to give more empowerment, but we also need to have the systems, the processes, and tools available to support that empowerment.
So, the organization needs to be available, not everyone. And I think that's the key point or key takeaway. Yes, and this is the last question we take.
My name is Ehsan, and I'm looking after sales in an organization. My question to you is, you might have taken 3 major steps other than the complaint management of your customers to address the customer experience in a short-term basis. So in a quarter, what was your 3 major steps which you believe that have contributed to make your organization a better customer experience organization?
Okay, so things usually don't move in a quarter, but I'll try to answer anyway. As I said in the beginning, or in the middle actually of my talk here, is we are continuously upgrading our network in a very substantial manner. And as a consequence of that, and that's the first part of my answer to your question, is the number of registered complaints, eventually that's customers being unhappy, the number of registered complaints has gone down by 25%. And I attribute that primarily to a better functioning and more stable network that goes wrong less often, and therefore we have lesser complaints. And lesser complaints means less unhappy people. So that's one. Secondly, as I said, we are in the process of, and have already done so, refurbished many of our shops. Some of them look really nice now, some of them still don't, and they will eventually all be changed. And that's, just from an appearance perspective, it's more inviting to go in a shop like this. Thirdly, we have trained significantly the people in our shops to be more customer-oriented, to be more forthcoming, to be better educated about our products and services. And that's probably the third element that I would make. But again, I emphasize, I don't want to raise false expectations. That's a long journey. We have an organization of 20,000 people where things have been wrong for many years. We're fixing it, so please bear with us.
Yeah, and imagine changing 20,000 people versus 200 million people. It is a journey.
I can only imagine what it must be, yes.
Exactly.
For the people.
It is a journey. So before I conclude, any last comment from your side?
Yeah, so maybe, because one of the things that's going through my mind, so what does good look like? So I want to share with you 1 or 2 actually examples that I personally, in the digital world, what is to me good? And here I have to use names. I don't want to endorse them, it's not an advertising, but I have to use names to make it concrete. For me, the best experience I've had online, and actually also in omnichannel linking to physical, is Amazon. Those of you who have ever ordered from Amazon, I think it's phenomenal. It's so simple, it's so intuitive, it's so quick, and they actually link the online world nicely also to the physical world. That for me is a great example. If I think of less good examples, and here I won't mention names, but just simply talk about industries in general, I think the airline industry is quite terrible in many regards. So when I want to change, sometimes people book, my travel agent books for me something, a ticket on a carrier, and then I have to change my flight short term, happens quite frequently, and I go online and I want to change that flight. And I have the booking reference, and then the online system says to me, I'm sorry, we cannot change that booking online because it has been booked through a travel agent, please contact a travel agent. And that's when I go ballistic, because I'm sorry, you're making your problem my problem. I just have a ticket, so kindly let me change that booking online. So that's, I think, where airlines in particular, also reputed international airlines, quite frankly, have a big job to do in order to better manage their omnichannels.
And very good point. I read a survey somewhere where organizations were asked as to what they think about their customer experience or the experience they are providing to the customer. And 80% of the organization said they feel they're providing an excellent customer services, right? The same surveyors went to their customers. So while organizations felt that 80% of their customers should be happy, only 8% said they are getting good customer experience. So it is about customers, but it is also about knowing what's happening. And I completely agree that the digital world is all about simplicity. It's all about hiding the complexities of the physical world behind the customers, and what customer gets is simple, easy to use, fast ways of communicating and personalized way of communicating. I'll just share two final examples from my side, and then we'll wrap up. Going back to what Daniel said, the principles have not changed. It's the way you execute which has changed. I started my career about 30 years ago, and in a very traditional physical world, a 22, 23-year-old sitting in a leadership team meeting, and there was a typical debate that happens even today between the HR and the finance versus the sales, where sales is always wrong and HR and finance is always right, or that's how they feel, and the debate was happening. And it got quite heated. And then my boss, at that time, he had to intervene, and he said, guys, let's stop it here, right? And let's all agree, because the discussion was all on customers, and where sales was defending the customers, and the customer services and other organizations were saying customers are pathetic, right? And he said, let's make a decision that we will have no customers from tomorrow, right? It's a decision, right? So because all the problems are coming due to the customers, so if we'll not have customers, we'll not have problems, except for one. None of us will be here, right? So customers pay for your salaries, and that's important. And a very recent example, without naming, because the idea is either not to endorse or to put down someone, but just sharing an experience. Many of us are part of many groups, and we are on social media. One organization, and I'm just giving you an example of this is like 2 weeks, within 2 weeks. One organization, customers were experiencing bad customer services, and it was public, it was all over in media. And in one of the large group, managed by someone, but all the key stakeholders in the country are there. As consumers, people started bitterly complaining about the services. And the CEO of the organization was also present there, right? Instead of answering consumers and giving them comfort, he, in protest, left the group, right? And it created a huge hue and cry and a branding disaster for that organization. All happened on digital media. Another good example, a complaint I saw by a very well-known figure on the Facebook page of that person, where they were not happy with the services being provided. And somebody tagged the CEO of that organization. The CEO came online, apologized to that person about the service, understood the problem, came back, reported publicly what was the issue, apologized again, and he said, we have fixed the problem for all our customers. That's how customer perceptions are created negatively and positively in a digital world. You don't have the luxury of hiding things. Customers are very well informed, as Daniel said. Customers have choices not in tens or not in single or double digit numbers, in thousands and millions, and they don't have time. So hence, organizations need to realize that in the world of digital, customer experience assumes far more significance, because the impact is much bigger for even the smallest of mistakes that you make. The margin of error has gone down, much lower than ever before. Thank you so very much. Thank you, all of you. You've been a great audience. Thank you for the questions. Thank you, Daniel, for being very eloquent
Pleasure.
with
you.
your responses. Thank you. Thank you very much.